Welcome to this week's edition of MLB This Week. It's the MLB This Week Show. Are the Nationals imploding? Justin Upton of the Padres hits a teammate in the head with his helmet. Hilarious article on sabermetric stats and so much more on this edition of MLB This Week. And hello and welcome to This Week in MLB This Week. It's the MLB This Week podcast. My name is Rich.
And I'm Gary.
And hello, Gary Mack. Welcome aboard to this week's edition of MLB This Week.
Always good to be here, Rich, with you and with the good people out there in the internet. And another week of baseball in the books as we get into really the dog days now, get close to the pennant races.
Yes, indeed. In fact, on my Phillies Talk podcast this afternoon, that was the title of it, The Dog Days of August. And of course, the Phillies are playing like dogs, so it goes hand in hand.
Well, what can you do? They've had a lot of upheaval this year and a lot of things going on. And is Chase Utley still with them, or did he get traded in the last half an hour?
I believe as of the last half hour, he's still with the Phillies. Of course, we have about 14 days to go before the final trade deadline for eligibility for the postseason. But there's a lot of talk about Utley possibly leaving the Phillies, or he may stay. So that is the talk around Philadelphia right now. And of course, he's been red hot. Probably the best that he's been playing all year in the last 2 weeks. So he's kind of helping himself, whatever he decides to do.
Well, he could help the Phillies too if they decide to trade him. And I think at this point, it'd probably be a wise idea to really move him and try to get some prospects for him, Rich.
Yeah, that would be a good thing. And, there's been teams that inquired about him already. San Francisco is one, amongst others, but a lot of these teams want something for nothing, and Chase Utley, of course, is wanting to look after his own best interests as well. His contract sort of comes to an end after this year with the Phillies, and I guess he wants to play for at least a year or two more, so wherever he goes, he wants to make sure, I guess, he gets that extension as well.
Yeah, well, it's a good business move on his part, and he should take advantage of what he can get.
Yes, indeed. Well, this is an added bonus for the show. Kind of a surprise here. But through the week, I picked up some baseball cards. And here's a pack of Topps Allen and Ginter cards. I'm sort of what they call a pack rat in the collecting world. I just buy them by the pack. I don't buy them by the box because they're a little bit too expensive. So for our YouTube listeners and watchers, viewers of the show, I'm going to open a pack of Allen and Ginter right here on the show.
Wow, first.
Yes. Figure what we have here, see if we get anything good. We got a Jonathan LaCroix, and of course, these Allen and Ginter are the old style cards. They're done really nicely. They've got some nice stats on the back of them usually. Pretty nice here. Got a couple other cards here. Cecil Fielder, Matt Holliday, Giovanni Gallardo, Santana. And would you look at this? A New York Met throwback, a 2003 Jose Reyes, Allen and Ginter here.
All right.
So this is a pretty good card here. Let's see what else we have. Couple of more Keys to the City cards here. Seattle. Pretty interesting here for our YouTube viewers. Of course, if you're listening to the podcast, I apologize. Try to make this brief. A couple more cards here. No autograph cards in this pack, but pretty cool to collect baseball cards. I've got boxes and boxes of them. I don't know what I'll eventually do with them, but
Yeah.
there it is, a nice pack of Allen and Ginter opened up on the show here.
I like to try to get them autographed. Sometimes I'll send them away to players and stuff, and get them autographed, and it's you can send it pretty cheap through the mail, baseball cards. So
Yeah,
it's good that way. But very
yeah.
nice, very nice. Mine have been in storage, I guess you'd call it, since Hurricane Sandy. So I got to drag them out and find a space for them, and
Uh-huh.
get some of them back in going again. But yeah,
Yep.
baseball cards are always cool.
Yes, they are. And, a few years ago, they had a pack, if you remember. I don't know how big a collector you are, but Sports Illustrated, I believe, had a pack. They were like $15 or $20 a pack, but you were guaranteed to get an autograph card in the pack. I don't know if you remember that.
I do. I think they all do that once in a while. They'll run a special like that, and they'll have packs. And I see some of these guys on YouTube, these hardcore collectors and stuff, and they get these packs, and they, as you say, they buy them by the boxes, and it says, guaranteed to have at least one autograph card in a pack or in a box. I forget which. So I'm not into it that big, and I used to be when I was a kid, and I still love looking through them and all, but like you said, the cost is really kind of crazy sometimes.
Yeah, that little pack of Allen and Ginter set me back $5.99. I'm not sure I got my money's worth out of this pack, but that's the way it goes with card collecting sometimes.
Yeah, there you go. And Rich, maybe next year, if you get a pack, you'll have a Washington Nationals team picture card, and it'll be exploding because I think they're in the middle of an implosion here, the Washington Nationals.
Yeah, it seems like every time you look, they're not doing too well. And as you said, Gary, I wonder what the cause of this is.
Well, the latest is, they dropped the whole series that swept by the San Francisco Giants. They lost today again, and thank goodness, because the Mets got swept by the Pirates, but the Mets lost no ground, and they took 3 more games off the schedule. Now, the Mets did blow a golden opportunity to really lengthen their lead, but that's what happens sometimes, and they were fortunate. And one incident that occurred last night that's been getting a little bit of press, not much, but there have been some reports, and that is Bryce Harper fouled the ball off his leg, and it took the trainer like about 40 to 60 seconds before he even came out of the dugout. And Matt Williams never came out of the dugout to help him, to check on his star player. And then when Harper went back to the dugout, none of the teammates came around to check on him or just to see how he was doing. He kind of sat there by himself. Now, I don't know what that means, but it could be a little telling that there are problems in Washington, and I'm looking at a new regime in there next year. I don't think Matt Williams lasts through the winter. It just seems that this was a team on the brink with Davey Johnson. They made the move to Matt Williams, and they've struggled since then. They struggle with Davey Johnson too, but I got a feeling that if they don't win this year, they're going to blow that team apart because they have the talent, and but they just can't win. And whether it's chemistry or whatever, and now they've lost like, I don't know, 2-8 in their last 10, I believe. So it's a team with a lot of promise, but Max Scherzer may be kicking himself that he took that big contract, and the Nationals might be kicking themselves that they gave him that big a contract, because he's stuck there now, and they're stuck with him. So It'll be interesting to see what happens in the offseason. Of course, there's another month. They could still catch the Mets and turn this thing around. But boy, the way they're playing now, they're 2 games under 500, and they just look awful.
Yeah, they're a team on a free fall, so to speak, and it seemed like the NL East was pretty bunched up close, but now they're on a elevator going down, it seems, and no hope for them. So we'll have to see if they can recover late here. There's only about 6 weeks left in the season, maybe about 42 games or so. It's possible they could regroup and make a run at it, but Scherzer was about 11-9 record, I think, the last time I looked, and I'm very surprised at that this year.
Well, he's had a lot of games where he's had no decisions. He's pitched well. He's had some ones that he's lost close game, and it's just, it seems like it's contagious, and it's throughout the whole team, whatever it is. And I kind of spoke about this on Mets Musings last year and this year. And I think on this show I spoke about it earlier in the year that they can be had, and they had a lot of guys hurt early in the year, and Jason Worth was in and out of the lineup, and I don't know. And the Bryce Harper thing is very, very curious, because this is a bone. I know he's a pain in the neck, and but you begin to wonder: is he as big as pain in the neck as you think? I mean, Met fans want to call him a pain in the neck because he made statements about he doesn't care what the Mets are doing. He's only got to worry about what the Nationals are doing. And he's right in that remark. He can't worry about what the Mets are doing. He's got to be worried. You play who's in front of you, and you can't be worried about the other teams at this time. You just go out and try to win. And but he's taking flack in New York for that, and apparently he's not a very well-liked teammate. I mean, it's all rumors and speculation and innuendo, but it just doesn't seem like a happy ball club.
Yeah, and there's a lot of personalities, of course, on that team with, as you said, we've got Worth and other players like that are islands unto themselves almost. So, yeah, it could be a lot of trouble that nobody sees on the outside for sure.
Well, at least they don't have to duck Justin Upton.
Yeah, raging Justin Upton the other night was picked off from second base, and he was so upset when he came back into the dugout. He flung his helmet onto the ground very, very strongly, and little did he know that helmet took a serious rebound and nearly knocked out his own teammate. As Upton ran through the dugout, he slammed his helmet to the ground and hit a guy named Yoder Alonso. Alonso went straight down to the ground, nearly knocked him out, and after he got up from that, he was very, very upset. He practically destroyed the dugout trash cans in his way to the showers. He could not continue to play the game, obviously, and just a real wake-up call for some of these guys to start throwing things and going crazy in dugouts.
Yeah, you got to be careful. You don't know how that bounce is going to come back and hit you. So.
Yeah, Upton tried to console Yoder right after it happened, but he wasn't having none of that. He was fit to be tied, so to speak, and just an unfortunate incident, but he really walloped him there in the dugout, the San Diego Padres.
Oh, well, they've certainly had their problems this year, and it seems like it just continues.
Yes, indeed. Well, we want to thank our listeners for tuning into this podcast. You can also hear a lot of different baseball talk shows on baseballtalkradio.com. It's the home for great baseball talk with shows from around the world, Japan, Europe, and coast to coast across the United States. We're adding more shows every day. You can hear Gary's show on the Mets and also the Brooklyn Cyclones. And you can hear my show on the Phillies that I do along with my co-host Jim Mulry. So give it a listen. Tune in on the TuneIn app. On the road, you can listen to us on your Bluetooth streaming radio in your car. So you can have all day to listen to baseball podcasts.
Wow, that's great. And listen to us because there's lots of good ones there.
Yes, there are. So we wanted to also remind you that we like emails to this show. So give us an email one day, will you? If you're a longtime listener, you tune in from afar, let us know where you listened from and what you like about the show. Who's your favorite team? We'd love to read that here on the air on MLB This Week.
Certainly would. And, just send those emails in and we'll put it on the air.
And Gary, you have the next story up, Home Sweet Home.
Well, Rich, last Tuesday, something happened, and I found this hard to believe, but for the first time since MLB expanded to 30 teams, all 15 home teams won their games. And that would be the Blue Jays, Rays, Marlins, Mets, Indians, Cubs, Royals, White Sox, Twins, Cardinals, D-backs, Mariners, Padres, Dodgers, and Giants. Prior to Tuesday, the closest the home teams have come was 12 wins, more than a century ago on May 23rd, 1914, according to Elias Sports Bureau. Home outscored their visitors by an 80-32 margin, including 4 shutouts. 7 of the wins came after the home team trailed at some point in the game, and 11 of the 15 home clubs scored at least 4 runs in their victory. So I would have thought that it was done before, but apparently for the first time, we had a little history made as all 15 home teams won on Tuesday night.
Yeah, that's amazing. I really would have bet that that happened before as well, Gary, because you figure all those games, all those different combinations, it's hard to believe that all the home teams never won before because they usually have a slight advantage over the visiting team.
Yeah. Major League Baseball history was made, and I had to jump right on that right away when I saw that. But yeah, it was shocking to see that it had never happened before, or at least it had been 100 years or so. So, yeah, quite an interesting thing. I guess we don't really know. Baseball's such a game of statistics, and there's so many out there that you don't really know about. And here's just another example of that.
Yes, indeed. So every night in baseball, you could see something different, something new, and that just happened to be the night for that stat. That was amazing. It's interesting to hear. Another interesting article appeared in the Chicago Tribune this past week. A writer had an interesting article about sabermetrics, and he sort of bashed sabermetrics a little bit. He's kind of sick of hearing about all of the different wins above replacement players and things like that. But it was a hilarious article. If you can get a chance to read it online, go over to chicagotribune.com. And right now I'm having a problem finding it myself to even quote what the article writer was saying about it. But he had a real funny tale about new stats, some of the newer stats that we're hearing about. And then he added his own in there, some funny mixes. But basically, he was very perturbed with all these new stats we've been hearing about, Gary.
I'm with him 100%.
So if you get a chance, check it out over at the chicagotribune.com. Interesting article there on sabermetric stats.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. We discussed that before, so good for him.
And you have a story coming up on stirring up some trouble.
Well, Rich, you remember when we were a kid and we played ball and we'd wear those stirrups. Remember the stirrups, the high socks?
Mm-hmm.
And you have the white socks underneath showing. Well, last week, Cameron Maybin of the Atlanta Braves wore some stirrups, and we haven't seen these type in quite a few years. And sadly, however, somebody doesn't have a sense of humor, either with the Atlanta Braves or MLB. But he was told not to wear. I don't understand that they let those, the guys wear those pants. It looks like they got pajamas on all the way down to the back of their shoes. It looks like they're going to trip and break their neck. And here, a classic style like this with the high stirrup socks, and they don't want him wearing it. I don't understand it, and I throw it out there for anybody to let me know why the heck can't he wear those stirrups? And if MLB's got a read, I don't see anything wrong with him.
Yeah, it looks like some sort of fashion police there. If the MLB does make them take them off, because I remember other players used to wear them over the years. Chipper Jones, #1, used to always wear those, and some other players. I can't really think of the names right now, but over the years, I remember seeing them quite frequently.
Well, when I was playing ball, that's we'd actually, you'd get the stirrup socks from your team, and what you do is you'd snip the bottom of the stirrups because they never were high enough, and then you go to the 5 and 10 cent store, and that some elastic. You get a strip of elastic, and you'd sew it on, and you could pull it up. Sew it on each side of the stirrup and then pull it up, and that would pull those stirrups up, and you get them real high like that. You'd show the white sock underneath that we used to call sanitary hose, and because yes, they used to be in 2 pieces. You'd put the sanitary hose on, a pair of 2 of those first, and then you'd put your stirrups on over that, and they got away with that. They got away from that, I should say. I guess it was the 90s when they started getting away with it. And now you see some of the old 50 style stirrups coming back with their leg. But the high stirrups were, virtually out in the 90s. And apparently baseball don't want them back. So.
Yeah, it's kind of a sad thing there. Always cool to see almost like a throwback uniform for some people, but maybe we'll look into that a little more and find out why they want them to stop using those. But over in LA, to echo what you were saying about the Nationals, Gary, when we opened the show, the Angels are going through a real tough time out there. As of today, going in today's play, they've lost 16 of 22 games. They're batting .221 overall and 185 with runners in scoring position. So you would kind of figure that the Angels were more or less out of it when you hear those numbers. But believe it or not, Gary, they're hanging in. They're tied for second place for the wild card still.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Those numbers are not good, and they do rank right up there with the Nationals, but they still got Mike Trout. So
yeah, they do. I wonder how Trout feels about that. The Angels still aren't that bad on a record, and they're hanging in there for the wild card. But could you imagine if they just won just a few more of those games, they would have first place to themselves almost. Currently, they're 3 games back out there in the AL West, 60 and 56 records. So if they're going to chase and catch Houston, they're going to have to win a ton more ball games than they have been.
But like you said, Rich, even with that, they're 3 games back, and they're still in the wild card. So that's pretty amazing. But It's just a fascinating year. There's so many wacky things going on that look at the Texas Rangers. They're 4 games back, and nobody would have gave them a chance at the beginning of the year. But just a lot of wackiness going on in baseball this year, and of course the Yankees and the Blue Jays. The Yankees took 2 out of 3 this weekend, and they're back in first by a half a game. And Baltimore is really going to be nuts.
Yeah, it's going to be a race to the wire. The Cubbies have done well too. They're right in the hunt. They're almost 20 games over 500. In fact, they would lead the NL East if they were over in the East. But they're a distant third behind the Cardinals and Pittsburgh now. It just shows how well those two teams are doing as well.
Well, I guess we can see what is the strongest division in baseball right now, and it's got to be the NL Central with as you said, the Cardinals, the Pirates, and the Cubs, all having fine seasons, and there is talk about going to records instead of getting rid of divisional play and going to just the playoffs by records, but I don't think that's right either. I think you got to keep the divisions. We all like the divisions, and it gives people a chance. So, but it is a crazy year. Pittsburgh with a wild card there, and the Cubbies right up there, and it's good for baseball though to see these teams come back.
Yes, it is, and that's the ebb and flow of baseball. It's sort of you're good for a couple years, and then you fade back into mediocrity, and then you might slip down to the bottom, but eventually that tide will change, and you'll be back on top again. So that's one of the things about baseball that I really like. It's got a good flow to it. It doesn't seem like too many teams hold on to dynasties for too long in this game.
Yeah, you have a window of time, and if you don't utilize it, then it's gone, and you got to start all over, it seems.
Indeed. Well, you have a story about a Met player. He's got an interesting name as well.
Well, Yoenis Cespedes, the entire Mets fan base was pretty thrilled when 2-time home run derby champion Yoenis Cespedes left the Motor City for New York, but no one was more pleased than comedian Jerry Seinfeld. He even expressed his admiration in a kind of fan letter that we all remember sending to our favorite player. And SCSPDS, you are a great baseball player. I love watching you. Do Cubans really love those Cuban sandwiches? I love them. And Cespedes responded, thanks, and yes, and let's eat one sometime. So Jerry Seinfeld gets a lunch date with Yoenis Cespedes, the latest Met, who really has done a nice job since coming over here, and really is quite a good ball player. You don't really realize it till you see them every day, but he has made a couple of nice, unbelievable throws from the outfield, and he's been getting some big hits. So firmly in the corner of Yoenis Cespedes. So it's Cespedes for the rest of us. If you remember Seinfeld with the Festivus for the rest of us. Now it's here in New York, it's Cespedes for the rest of us.
That's very interesting, and it kind of almost sounds like a disease. I don't want to jinx Mr. Cespedes, but the dreaded Cespedes has swept the city.
Well, so far it's a good disease, and we need more of that kind of disease
to spread around. Very cool. I'm glad that Cespedes is working out for the Mets nicely, and we're going to do an occasional series, as I said the last couple shows, Gary. I don't know if you enjoyed that or not. But baseball history, this day in baseball history, we're going to review a couple of the biggest stories in the season that has gone by. And let's see, I'm going to pick one out right here. On this day in baseball history, August 15th, just yesterday, the Chicago Cubs routed the Brooklyn Dodgers 20-6 at Ebbets Field. A guy named Paul Gillespie knocked in 6 runs with 2 home runs and a single to lead the attack. Another story here, Mayor Daley from Chicago declared Ernie Banks Day in 1964 in Chicago, and 26,000 fans cheered on the Cubs slugger, who then went hitless as Pittsburgh beat the Cubs 5-4 on Ernie Banks Day in Chicago. I guess even if it's your day, you can't ensure a win there, Gar.
And Rich, on this day, if I may insert one story, not a happy story, but it was the a bit of history. On this day in 1920 at the Polo Grounds, Ray Chapman suffered a fractured skull when he was hit in the head by a fastball thrown by Yankee submariner Carl Mays. The Indian shortstop would die the next day, becoming the first on-field player fatality in Major League.
Wow, it's amazing. I didn't even know that.
Mm-hmm. And also, I hate to be putting up bad news about today, but in 1948, on Babe Ruth passed away at Memorial Hospital in New York City. He had throat cancer, and he died with his wife Claire and his 2 adopted daughters at his side on this date in 1948.
So that's a bit of sad news for the Babe Ruth fans. I know you can count me as one of those fans. That's always a shame to hear, but definitely one of the best players to ever play the game.
Yes, he certainly was, and we've gone over about my connection to him. Not really my connection, but my mother had her picture taken. I got to dig that picture up and show it one of these days.
Yeah, that would be nice. Well, we would like to invite our listeners to support the show. You can go over to our website, MLBThisWeek.com. It's the independent show that talks all about baseball. We bring it to you every week here. You can listen on the internet or watch the video version of the show. We do have a Patreon link there on our website at MLB This Week. You can pop in there and start a subscription via PayPal if you'd like, about $2 a month or so, to help us defray some of the costs of the show. And it would help us improve it as well. I know a lot of the times when I've heard talk show hosts ask for donations, I wouldn't give myself. A few of them I did, but if you're in the mood and you really like our show, we'd greatly appreciate it.
And Rich, I did find it's a very grainy copy. I have better copies, but there is the Bambino with my mother, Ruth Herman. She claims it was on the day that he hit his 60th home run in 1927, but that's just family folklore. We can't prove it one way or the other, but there's the picture, and
very interesting.
With the Babe.
Your connection to Babe Ruth. Awesome. Well, we thank everybody for listening to this edition of MLB This Week. We'll be covering the race, especially the deadline of August 31st, where we have the final day of trading for players to become eligible in the postseason. We'll be talking about playoff implications soon, wild card, question marks. There's always going to be question marks coming down towards the end of the season, especially when you have 2 wild card teams heading into the mix now, Gary. So it looks like it's going to be a load of fun going for the rest of the season.
and we'll be able to revise our picks, I hope, and see how badly we did the beginning of the year, and make some new picks, hopefully.
Yes, indeed. Well, thanks again for listening to This Week, MLB This Week. It's the podcast that we like to bring to you independent, not sponsored by any Major League Baseball team or Major League Baseball itself. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you again next show.